My name is Margaret. I am 65 years old, and after my surgery last year, I moved in with my daughter Lisa and her son, Ethan. At first, I was grateful for the help. Lisa said it was no trouble, that family takes care of each other. But lately, I've started to feel like a guest in my own life. The photos on the walls are all of Lisa and Ethan. My things are packed away in boxes in the garage. Even my favorite chair disappeared one day, replaced by a shiny new one that didn't quite fit my back. I try not to complain. I remind myself that Lisa was busy, that Ethan is growing up fast. But sometimes, when I hear them whispering in the hallway or see the way they look at each other when I ask a question, I feel a distance I can't cross. This morning, as I set out the plates and poured orange juice, I noticed my wallet was missing from its usual spot. I thought maybe I'd left it in my room, but something told me not to ask. Lisa came into the kitchen, her hair pulled back, phone in hand. She barely looked at me as she sat down. Ethan followed, eyes glued to his tablet. We ate in silence for a minute, the only sound the scrape of forks and the occasional buzz of Lisa's phone. Then, without looking up, Lisa said, "Mom, Ethan needs a new phone for school. Can you give me your credit card? It'll just be easier." I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Lisa, I'm not sure that's a good idea. My card is for emergencies, and I need to keep track of my spending." Lisa's face tightened. She put her phone down and looked at me, her eyes cold. "It's not a big deal, Mom. You're living here for free. The least you can do is help out." Ethan looked up, waiting to see what I would do. I felt my cheeks grow warm. "I'm sorry, Lisa. I can't." The room went very still. Lisa's hand closed around her coffee cup. In one quick motion, she threw the coffee across the table. The hot liquid splashed onto my hands and lap. I gasped, more from shock than pain. The mug clattered to the floor. Ethan stared, wide-eyed. Lisa stood up, her voice sharp. "If you're not going to help, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." I sat frozen, coffee soaking into my robe, my heart pounding. I looked at my daughter and wondered how we had come to this moment. I thought about all the times I had helped her, all the nights I stayed up with Ethan when he was sick, all the holidays I spent cooking for them. Now, with one cup of coffee, everything felt broken. How did it come to this? Let me share the whole story with you. First, take a moment and click the subscribe button. It will help me a lot. So, the coffee burned my skin, but the sting in my heart was much worse. I sat there, my hands trembling, watching the brown liquid drip from my robe onto the floor. Lisa didn't rush to help or even offer a towel. She just stood there, arms crossed, her face hard. Ethan glanced at me, then back at his tablet, pretending not to notice anything. I slowly got up, my legs shaky, and reached for some paper towels. My daughter didn't move. Instead, she sighed loudly, as if I was the one making a scene. "You always do this, Mom. You make everything difficult," she said, her voice cold. I wiped my hands, feeling the heat of embarrassment on my cheeks. I wanted to say something, to remind her of all I had done, but the words wouldn't come. Ethan finally spoke, but not to comfort me. "Grandma, you should just give Mom the card. It's not a big deal." His words made me feel even smaller. I realized then that I was truly alone in this house. The people I loved most saw me as a problem, not a person. I went to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my wrinkled hands. The pain in my skin was nothing compared to the ache inside. I thought about how things used to be, how Lisa would call me for advice, how Ethan would run to me with his drawings. Now I was just someone to be used, a wallet with a heartbeat. I heard them laughing in the kitchen, the sound muffled but sharp. I wondered if they even cared about what just happened. Maybe they thought I deserved it for saying no. I looked around my small room, noticing how little of it was truly mine. My clothes were in boxes, my photos hidden away. Even my medicine had been moved to a high shelf. I felt like a stranger, living at the edge of someone else's life. The truth hit me hard. I was only welcome here as long as I kept giving. My needs, my feelings didn't matter. I sat there for a long time, trying to make sense of it all. How did my daughter become this person? How did my grandson learn to treat me this way? I remembered the moment at the table, the way Lisa's eyes had gone cold, the way Ethan had looked through me. It was like I had disappeared. I whispered to myself, yes, my own daughter threw coffee at me for refusing to give my credit card. Saying it out loud made it real. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling the steady beat of my heart, and wondered how much more I could take. The house felt colder, the walls closer. I knew something had changed forever, and I wasn't sure if I could ever get it back. The days after the coffee incident dragged on, each one feeling heavier than the last. I tried to carry on as if nothing had happened, but the memory of that morning stayed with me, replaying in my mind every time I saw Lisa or Ethan. The burn on my hand faded quickly, but the pain in my heart did not. I found myself flinching at sudden movements, growing quiet at the breakfast table, and avoiding Lisa's eyes. She seemed to notice my discomfort, but instead of showing concern, she acted as if I was the problem. The house felt colder, the walls seemed closer, and I realized I was walking on eggshells in what was supposed to be my home. Looking back, I started to see a pattern I had ignored for too long. There were so many small things that, on their own, might have seemed harmless. Lisa would ask for money for groceries or bills, always promising to pay me back, but she never did. When Ethan wanted something, a new game, shoes, or money for a school trip, he would come to me first. If I hesitated, he would sigh loudly or stomp off to complain to Lisa. She would then come to me, frustrated, and say I was being difficult or selfish. I always gave in, thinking it was just a phase, but the requests only grew more frequent and more demanding. Sometimes I would find my purse moved from where I left it, or notice that cash was missing. I told myself I was just forgetful, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't just about money. The emotional distance between us grew with every passing day. Lisa would host dinners for her friends and ask me to stay in my room, saying she didn't want me to say anything embarrassing. She would correct me sharply in front of Ethan, rolling her eyes as if I were a child. I overheard her once, late at night, telling a friend, "She's only here until she gets better. Then we'll have our lives back." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I realized I was not truly part of their family life, just someone they had to put up with until I was no longer useful. Even my health became a burden. When I needed help with my medicine or a ride to the doctor, Lisa would sigh and say she was busy, or she would send Ethan, who made it clear he didn't want to be bothered. I thought about speaking up, telling Lisa how I felt, but every time I tried, I remembered the look in her eyes that morning. It was a look I had never seen before, cold, distant, almost like she didn't know me at all. I was afraid that if I pushed too hard, she would throw me out, and I had nowhere else to go. The fear of being alone, of having no one, kept me silent. I convinced myself that if I just gave a little more, things would get better, but I knew in my heart that wasn't true. I started to feel trapped, like I was living in a cage built from my own hope and fear. One afternoon, I sat alone in the small park near our house, watching the children play and the leaves rustle in the breeze. Mrs. Patel, my old neighbor from before I moved in with Lisa, spotted me and came over. She noticed the sadness in my eyes and asked if I was all right. At first, I lied and said I was fine, but she gently pressed, and the truth spilled out. I told her about the coffee, the money, the way Lisa and Ethan treated me. Mrs. Patel listened quietly, her eyes kind and understanding. She put her hand on mine and said, "You don't deserve this, Margaret. You need to protect yourself." She gave me the number of a social worker and told me to call if I ever needed help. Her kindness made me cry, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a small spark of hope. That evening, when Lisa and Ethan were out, I decided to look through my bank statements. My hands shook as I logged into my account using Lisa's laptop. I scrolled through the transactions, my heart sinking with every line. There were charges I didn't recognize: expensive electronics, online shopping, cash withdrawals at ATMs I had never visited. I realized Lisa must have taken my credit card and used it without telling me. My savings were shrinking, and panic rose in my chest. I printed out the statements and hid them in my pillowcase, terrified that Lisa would find out. The truth was clear now. I was being used, not just for a place to stay, but for every penny I had. The next morning, Lisa asked for my card again, this time saying Ethan needed new clothes for school. When I hesitated, she raised her voice, telling me I was selfish and ungrateful. Ethan joined in, saying all his friends had better things, and it was my fault he didn't fit in. The pressure was overwhelming. Lisa threatened that if I didn't help, maybe it was time for me to find somewhere else to live, or even move to a home where they can take care of old people like you. The words cut deep. I realized I was one argument away from being thrown out, and I had no idea where I would go as the days went by. The demands only grew. Lisa would leave notes asking for money for bills, groceries, or Ethan's school fees. If I didn't respond right away, she would give me the silent treatment or glare at me until I gave in. Ethan became bolder, taking money from my purse without asking, then denying it when I confronted him. I started to feel like a stranger in my own life, my world shrinking to the four walls of my small room. I stopped going into the living room or kitchen unless I had to, afraid of another confrontation point. One night, I lay awake, thinking about Mrs. Patel's words and the number she gave me. I knew I had to do something before I lost everything. I quietly packed a small bag with my important papers, the printed bank statements, and a few clothes. I hid the bag in the back of my closet, just in case. My mind raced with worry, but also with a new determination. I would not let them take everything from me. I would find a way to protect myself, even if it meant asking for help. The fear was still there, but now it was joined by a small, growing strength. I knew the road ahead would be hard, but I was ready to take the first step. The next day, I called the social worker, my voice shaking as I explained my situation. She listened patiently, asking gentle questions, and assured me that I wasn't alone. She told me about resources for people in my position and promised to help me find a safe place if things got worse. After the call, I felt a mix of relief and fear. I knew Lisa and Ethan would be angry if they found out, but I couldn't keep living like this. I started keeping a journal of everything that happened. Every time money went missing, every harsh word, every threat. I wanted to have proof, just in case. Lisa and Ethan seemed to sense that something had changed. They became even more demanding, checking on me more often, asking where I was going and who I was talking to. Lisa accused me of being ungrateful, saying she was tired of taking care of me and that I was ruining her life. Ethan stopped speaking to me altogether, except to ask for money. The house felt smaller and colder than ever, and I realized I was truly alone, but I also realized I was stronger than I thought. I started making plans, looking into places I could go if I needed to leave. I spoke to Mrs. Patel again, and she offered to help me if I needed a place to stay. I began to believe that, no matter how hard it was, I could find a way out. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled me. I was ready to fight for my dignity, for my future, and for the life I deserved. After so many days of feeling small, invisible, and afraid, something inside me finally changed. I woke up one morning and realized I could not keep living like this, shrinking a little more every day under the weight of my daughter's demands and my grandson's cold stares. I thought about all the years I had spent caring for Lisa, the sacrifices I made as a single mother, the times I went without so she could have what she needed. I remembered the joy of holding Ethan when he was a baby, the way he used to run to me with his arms open, calling me his favorite grandma. Now, those memories felt like they belonged to someone else, a different life that had slipped away without me noticing. The pain of being treated as a burden, a wallet, and a nuisance had become sharper than any physical ache, and I knew I had to make a choice. I could stay and let them drain away what was left of my spirit, or I could fight for myself, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. That morning, I stood at the window and watched the sun rise over the rooftops, the sky painted with soft colors that promised a new day. I let myself hope just a little that things could be different. I decided, quietly but firmly, that I would not let Lisa and Ethan take any more from me. I would reclaim my dignity, my independence, and my sense of self, no matter how hard it would be, that I started by gathering evidence of everything that had happened. I kept my journal close, writing down every incident, every time money went missing, every harsh word, every threat and demand. I made careful notes about the dates and details, trying to remember as much as I could. I went through my bank statements again, highlighting the charges I didn't recognize, and made copies to keep in a safe place. I checked my credit card balances, wrote down the numbers, and printed out the statements. I even took photos of my purse and wallet when I noticed money missing, so I could show the change from one day to the next. Each time I found something new, I felt a wave of sadness and anger, but also a growing sense of purpose. I was building a record, a story that could not be denied or explained away. I knew that if I ever needed to prove what was happening, I would have the truth on my side. I also reached out to my support system, starting with Mrs. Patel. She listened patiently, offering kind words and practical advice. She reminded me that I was not alone, that there were people who cared about me and wanted to help. She encouraged me to call the social worker again, and I did, explaining everything in detail. The social worker was gentle and understanding, asking questions and listening to my answers without judgment. She told me about my rights, about the resources available to seniors who are being abused or taken advantage of, and about the steps I could take to protect myself. She explained how to report financial abuse, how to freeze my accounts, and how to get legal help if I needed it. I took careful notes, feeling stronger with each new piece of information. I realized that knowledge was power, and the more I learned, the less afraid I felt. I also called the bank and asked them to flag my account for suspicious activity. The woman on the phone was sympathetic, and she helped me set up alerts for any large withdrawals or unusual charges. I changed my online banking password and made sure my important documents were hidden where Lisa and Ethan would not find them. I started to feel like I was taking back control, one small step at a time. All the while, I pretended to comply with Lisa's demands. I acted as if nothing had changed, answering her questions with a smile and giving her small amounts of money when she asked, just enough to keep her from getting suspicious. I let Ethan borrow a little cash for lunch or a school event, but I kept careful track of every dollar. I made sure to be polite and quiet, staying out of their way as much as possible. I did not want to give them any reason to suspect that I was planning something. I knew that if they realized I was preparing to leave or protect myself, they might become even more controlling or even try to stop me. I moved through the house like a ghost, watching and waiting, gathering information and making plans. I saved every receipt, every bank statement, every note or message that could prove what was happening. I packed a small bag with my most important things, my ID, my insurance card, my phone, and the copies of my documents, and hid it in the back of my closet, ready to grab if I needed to leave quickly. At the same time, I thought about where I could go if I had to leave. I spoke to Mrs. Patel about staying with her for a few days if things got worse, and she agreed without hesitation. The social worker gave me a list of safe places for seniors, including shelters and community centers, and promised to help me find a spot if I needed it. I looked up bus routes and taxi numbers, memorizing the quickest way to get out of the neighborhood. I made sure my phone was always charged and kept a little cash hidden in my shoe, just in case. Every step I took, every plan I made, helped me feel a little less trapped. I was building a way out, a path to safety that only I knew about. In the evenings, when Lisa and Ethan were watching TV or out with friends, I would sit in my room and think about what I wanted my life to be. I remembered the things that used to make me happy: gardening, reading, talking with friends, and I promised myself that I would find those joys again, no matter how long it took. I thought about the person I used to be before fear and sadness took over, and I decided I would fight to become her again. I knew it would not be easy, that there would be setbacks and hard days, but I was determined to try. I told myself over and over that I deserved better than this, that I was worth fighting for. As the days passed, I became more careful, more watchful. I listened closely to Lisa and Ethan, paying attention to their moods and their words. I tried to stay one step ahead, anticipating what they might do if they sensed I was slipping away. I kept my plan secret, sharing only the barest details with Mrs. Patel and the social worker. I trusted them, but I knew I had to be cautious. I did not want to risk everything I had worked for by being careless or too open. I became good at hiding my true feelings, at pretending to be the quiet, obedient mother and grandmother they expected. Inside, though, I was changing. I was growing stronger, more determined, more hopeful. One afternoon, while Lisa was out shopping and Ethan was at a friend's house, I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the sunlight streaming through the window. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. I knew I was doing the right thing, that I was taking back my life one step at a time. I thought about the future, about the freedom and dignity I would reclaim, and I let myself dream of better days. I promised myself that I would not let fear or shame hold me back any longer. I would stand up for myself, no matter what it took. I would leave behind the pain and the hurt, and I would build a new life, one where I was safe, respected, and loved for who I am. I would not let Lisa and Ethan define me or decide my worth. I would decide that for myself, and I would never let anyone take it away again. The day of the confrontation arrived quietly, almost like any other. I had spent the morning in my room, rehearsing what I would say, feeling my heart race with nerves and resolve. I knew there would never be a perfect moment, but I also knew I could not wait any longer. The weight of what I had discovered and the steps I had already taken gave me a quiet strength. I waited until Lisa and Ethan were both home, the air in the house thick with unspoken tension. Lisa was in the kitchen, scrolling on her phone, while Ethan lounged on the couch, headphones on, barely glancing up as I entered. I stood in the doorway, steadying myself, and called their names. My voice was calm, but it carried a firmness they were not used to hearing from me. Lisa looked up, annoyed. "What is it, Mom?" "I'm busy." Ethan didn't bother to remove his headphones. I took a deep breath. "We need to talk. Now." All of us. The seriousness in my tone caught Lisa's attention, and she set her phone down, a frown forming on her face. Ethan finally pulled off his headphones, sensing something was different. I walked to the table and laid out the folder I had prepared, filled with copies of my bank statements, notes, and evidence I had gathered over the past weeks. My hands didn't shake as I opened it. "I know what's been happening," I said quietly. "I know about the money, the credit card charges, the missing cash. I know you've been using my accounts without my permission, Lisa. I know, Ethan, that you've taken money from my purse. I have proof of everything. For a moment, there was only silence. Lisa's face went pale, then quickly flushed with anger. What are you talking about? Are you accusing us of stealing from you? Her voice was sharp, but I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. Ethan looked from me to his mother, his bravado slipping away. I held their gaze. I'm not accusing. I'm stating the truth. I've spoken to the bank. My accounts are frozen. I've transferred my remaining savings to a new account you can't access. I've spoken to a social worker and to the authorities. They know everything. My words hung in the air, heavy and final. Lisa's anger exploded. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, you go behind our backs? You're our mother. You're supposed to trust us. Her voice rose, but I didn't flinch. Ethan muttered, "This is stupid. You're just being paranoid." I shook my head. No, I'm being careful. I trusted you both, and you used that trust to hurt me. I won't let it happen anymore. Lisa's hands balled into fists. So, what, you're just going to leave? Where will you go? You can't survive on your own. You need us. There was a trace of desperation in her words now, a realization that their control was slipping away. I stood taller, feeling the years of fear and self-doubt fall away. I don't need you to survive. I have friends. I have support. And I have myself. I'm leaving this house, and I'm not coming back until I am treated with respect. If you try to take anything else from me, the police will be involved. I've already made sure of that. Lisa's face twisted in anger and disbelief. You're ungrateful. After all we've done, this is how you repay us. I met her eyes, steady and calm. What you've done is use me. That ends today. Ethan slumped back on the couch, sullen and silent. Lisa tried one last time, her voice trembling. You're really going to walk away from your family? Over a little money? I shook my head. It's not about the money. It's about trust, love, and respect. You broke all of those. I deserve better. The room was thick with emotion, anger, regret, disbelief, but I felt lighter than I had in months. I gathered my folder, my bag, and walked to the door. Lisa followed, still shouting, but I didn't turn back. I paused at the threshold, looking at the house that had become a prison, and said, I hope one day you understand what you've lost. As I stepped outside, the air felt fresh and new. My heart pounded, but it was with relief and pride. I had stood my ground. I had refused to be manipulated any longer. The fear that had haunted me was replaced by a sense of empowerment, a belief that I could build a new life, one where my dignity was intact and my worth was not measured by what I could give. I walked down the path, head held high, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I had finally chosen myself. The door closed behind me with a soft click, but the sound echoed in my heart like a bell announcing a new beginning. For the first time in a long while, I felt the weight of fear and sadness lifting from my shoulders. The air outside was cool and fresh, and as I walked down the path away from Lisa's house, I noticed the simple things, the gentle breeze, the distant sound of children playing, the way the sunlight danced on the leaves. Each step felt lighter, as if I was shedding years of pain with every stride. I didn't look back. There was nothing left for me in that house except memories of disappointment and betrayal. My hands clutched the small bag I had packed with my most important things, and my heart beat with a mix of nervousness and hope. I made my way to Mrs. Patel's home, just a few blocks away. She welcomed me with open arms, her warmth and kindness a balm to my wounded spirit. She had prepared a guest room for me, clean and bright, with fresh sheets and a vase of flowers on the bedside table. As I sat on the bed, I let myself cry, not tears of fear or regret, but of relief. I was safe. I was finally free from the constant demands, the harsh words, and the feeling of being unwanted in my own family. Mrs. Patel brought me a cup of tea and sat with me, holding my hand in silent support. In that moment, I realized how much I had missed simple kindness, how much I needed to feel cared for, even if just for a little while. The next few days passed quietly. I slept deeply for the first time in months, waking up to the sound of birds instead of arguments. I took walks in the park with Mrs. Patel, feeling the sun on my face and the grass under my feet. I called the social worker and let her know I was safe. She was glad to hear from me and assured me that I had done the right thing. Together, we reviewed the evidence I had gathered, my notes, the bank statements, the records of missing money. She explained the next steps, how to file a formal complaint, and how to protect myself from further financial abuse. It was a lot to take in, but with her guidance, I felt less overwhelmed. We contacted the authorities, and soon after, I spoke with a kind police officer who listened to my story with patience and respect. He explained that what Lisa and Ethan had done was not just unkind, it was illegal. Financial abuse of elders was a serious matter, and there were laws to protect people like me. I handed over my folder of evidence, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. I never wanted to hurt my daughter or see her in trouble, but I knew I had to stand up for myself. I had to draw a line to show that what they had done was wrong and that I would not accept it any longer. The investigation moved forward slowly, as these things often do. Lisa was contacted by the authorities, and she was forced to answer for her actions. The bank froze the joint accounts and began the process of recovering some of the stolen funds. I worked with a social worker to ensure that my finances were secure, moving everything into my own name and setting up protections so that no one else could access my money without my permission. There were meetings, phone calls, and paperwork, but with each step, I felt a little stronger, a little more in control of my life. During this time, I also visited a local senior community. The staff were friendly and welcoming, and the residents smiled and greeted me as I toured the grounds. There were gardens, a library, and a common room filled with laughter and conversation. For the first time in a long while, I could imagine a future for myself that was not filled with fear or loneliness. I decided to move in, using my savings to secure a small, cozy apartment. Mrs. Patel helped me pack my things and settle in, and the social worker checked in regularly to make sure I was adjusting well. Life in the senior community was different from anything I had known before. There were activities every day, yoga classes, book clubs, movie nights, and art workshops. I made new friends, people who listened to my story without judgment and shared their own experiences of hardship and healing. We laughed together, sometimes cried together, and supported each other through the ups and downs of life. I started gardening again, planting flowers and herbs in the community garden. The simple act of tending to something living, watching it grow and thrive, brought me a sense of peace I had not felt in years. As the weeks passed, I reflected on my journey. I thought about the woman I had been when I first moved in with Lisa, hopeful, grateful, but also vulnerable and unsure. I remembered the pain of realizing I was being used, the fear of standing up for myself, and the courage it took to finally walk away. I saw now that my worth was not measured by what I could give to others, but by the love and respect I gave to myself. I learned that it was not selfish to protect my own well-being, that it was not wrong to set boundaries and demand respect. I found my voice again, and with it a new sense of freedom. Lisa and Ethan faced consequences for their actions. The authorities required them to repay what they had taken, and the social worker made sure they could no longer access my accounts. I heard through Mrs. Patel that Lisa was angry at first, blaming me for her troubles, but over time, she began to understand the seriousness of what she had done. I received a letter from her months later. Not exactly an apology, but an acknowledgement that she had crossed a line. Ethan never reached out, but I hoped that one day he would learn from this and treat others with more kindness. There were moments when I missed them, when I wished things could have been different. I remembered the good times, the laughter, the love we once shared. But I also knew that I could not go back to the way things were. I had changed, grown stronger, and learned to value myself. I forgave Lisa and Ethan in my heart, not for their sake, but for my own peace. I let go of the anger and hurt, making space for new memories, new friendships, and new joys. MY days became filled with small pleasures, morning walks in the garden, sharing meals with friends, reading by the window as the sun set. I joined a support group for seniors who had experienced abuse, and together we shared our stories and offered each other hope. I found comfort in knowing I was not alone, that others had walked similar paths and found their way to healing. I volunteered at the community center, helping others who were struggling, using my experience to guide and encourage them. Looking back, I realized that leaving Lisa's house was not just about escaping a bad situation. It was about reclaiming my life. I had allowed fear and guilt to keep me trapped for too long, but in the end, I found the courage to choose myself. I built a new life, one filled with respect, friendship, and purpose. I learned that it is never too late to start over. Never too late to demand the love and dignity we all deserve. Anyone listening, anyone who feels trapped or alone, I want you to know this. No one deserves to be treated as a bank or a burden. Your worth is not measured by what you can give to others, but by the love and respect you give to yourself. Stand up for yourself. Your dignity is worth more than any credit card, any favor, any sacrifice. You have the right to be safe, to be respected, and to be loved for who you are. If you are afraid, reach out. There are people who care, people who will help you find your strength. You are not alone. As I sit in my new home, surrounded by friends and laughter, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. I am grateful for the kindness of Mrs. Patel, for the support of the social worker, for the strength I found within myself. I am grateful for the chance to begin again, to build a life that is truly my own. The journey was hard, and there were moments when I wanted to give up, but I am proud of how far I have come. I am no longer afraid. I am no longer a victim. I am a survivor, and my story is one of hope, resilience, and transformation. Every morning, as I water the flowers in the garden, I remind myself of how far I have come. I look at the faces of my new friends, hear the laughter in the halls, and know that I am home. I am at peace, and I am free. My dignity, once lost, has been restored, and I carry it with me every day. This is my life now, one of respect, independence, and quiet joy. And if my story can help even one person find their own strength, then every step of my journey was worth it. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever faced something similar, or if you know someone who has, I invite you to share your own experience in the comments below. And subscribe my channel. Subscribing to my channel will help me a lot in this phase, and it will give me courage to bring more interesting stories to you. Also like the video and share this story with someone who really needs to hear this. My story might give strength to someone who needs it right now. Remember, you are not alone. There are people who care and want to help. If you know someone going through a tough time like this, please reach out to them. Sometimes, just a kind word or a listening ear can make all the difference.